Hi, my name's Shay Hendricks. I'm staying here at the Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia because my son is in the hospital. It's really tough to be here as is, but having to worry about what I'm going to eat every day is not something I want to have to do. The Ronald McDonald House makes it really easy for me to wake up and come downstairs, and I'm able just to get breakfast. There's snacks, all kinds of beverages. And I'm able to come back after a long day at the hospital to a nice warm meal that the wonderful chefs here prepare. I'm very grateful for the kindness of all of the people here and for being able to eat and not have to worry about it. I really appreciate the donations from all of the families that are able to make this happen. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Served with Love. I'm your host, Jared Johnson. Today's episode is sponsored by Samuel Stanton Senior Charitable Trust. Today we're going to be talking about community-supported agriculture and these great boxes of produce that show up at your house. And what do you do with all that good produce that's in your CSA box? So for today's episode, we're talking about community-supported agriculture. And CSA boxes are very prevalent right now and showing up at a lot of people's houses. They come from a variety of different ways. You can be involved with a CSA organization like a co-op where you enlist and they send you what's seasonal and it comes out to your house. But in times like today, going through the pandemic, a lot of people are suffering right now. There's a lot of hungry people out there, and there's outside organizations that are doing wonderful work putting together CSA boxes to try and help to feed the hungry. As a matter of fact, over at our Front Erie house for the last several weeks, we've been doing CSA boxes with the assistance of Lancaster Farm Fresh and the St. Chris organization. And every week, they get a bunch of volunteers together and they package these boxes with wonderful bounty of produce that comes in from Lancaster Farm Fresh. And we've been putting together 600 different boxes a week that we send out to community organizations that help feed the hungry. So we have this great box here of community-supported agriculture, and we're going to figure out what do we do with all this good stuff that comes in the community box. So let's see what's in our box. Just open it up here. All right. So right off the bat, I'm seeing some greens. We have some baby arugula, some really nice black kale or Tuscan kale, some fennel, oranges, celery, carrots, onions, and potatoes. So right off the bat with the onions and the carrots and the celery, fennel, I'm thinking soup, stew. We have some fresh fruit, we have some leafy greens. So I'm going to take a look and see what we have in our pantry and refrigerator and come up with something that we're going to make. Maybe we'll make a couple different dishes out of everything that was in the box. All right, so I'm very excited about what I came up with. Seeing the celery and the carrots and the onions in the CSA box, I was already thinking soup or stew. And then I went into the refrigerator and saw that we had these awesome jerk sausage links from Dietz & Watson. Dietz & Watson does wonderful donations to the house, and they have these fully cooked chicken jerk sausage links, and they're really outstanding. And so that, to me, kind of set the tone for what soup I was going to make. And I thought with the kale, I would make something called Caldo Verde, which is a Portuguese style soup. It means green broth, but the idea is to take kale and a smoky sausage with some potatoes and make like a creamy, brothy soup that's really good for you and really delicious, and it's kind of ubiquitous all over Portugal. You'll see it everywhere. So typically they would do something like linguiça or chorizo, and you get that smoky flavor from the smoked paprika that's in the spice of the sausage. And we're going to pick up some elements of that smoke in the jerk chicken sausage. So it's going to be a non-traditional caldo verde, but kind of the same concept. And then to go with the Caldo Verde, we're going to do a wild arugula, baby arugula salad with some orange segments and some sliced fennel. And I had some walnuts in the pantry, and we'll do a little toasted walnut garnish with that. And by segmenting the oranges, we'll be able to make a great dressing from the orange juice with a little Dijon mustard and a splash of rice vinegar. So soup and salad to go with our CSA box. And we're going to start with the Caldo Verde. And this is how you put it together. Super simple brothy soup to make. I have my soup pot here on like medium-high heat. I've done all the prep in advance, and we're going to start with the Mirepoix, with the celery, carrots, and onions. So I have celery, carrots, and onions in a small dice here. We're going to add just a little olive oil to our soup pot. And we're going to start to cook our celery, carrots, and onions. Another reason why I'm so excited about this, we did an episode a couple of weeks ago on chicken stock, and we have a wonderful chicken stock that we're going to be able to use for this Caldo Verde. It's really going to be a delicious soup. Our families are going to love this. So a little salt and pepper. Remember, when we make the chicken stock, it's not seasoned. So when you're making a soup with homemade chicken stock, you want to make sure that you season your soup well. So we're going to let the celery, carrots, and onions go for just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes inside the pot until they start to sweat out, get a little bit of color on them. Okay, so our celery, carrots, and onions have been in here for about 3 minutes. So now we're just going to kind of move them off the middle and out to the edge of our soup pot. And we're going to drop in our sausage. Now this sausage is fully cooked. We're just going to put this in here and get a little brown on it, start to bring some of those flavors out before we build the rest of the soup. Okay, so our sausage has been in here for about 5 minutes with our Mirepoix. So we're going to add a little bit of garlic, about 6 cloves of garlic. We're going to add our potatoes. Just going to stir all this around. Some salt and pepper. We'll just take our stock. Careful when you pour. That's about enough. Just give that a quick stir. Oh, this is going to be so good. All right, so that's going to come up to a boil, and while we're waiting for that to come up, we're going to start to put together our salad. The first thing we're going to do for our salad here is we're going to peel and segment these oranges. And we're going to do that because we just want to make sure that you're getting the good, juicy part of the orange, but not all of the epidermis and the skin that's between the segments. We want to make sure that you're just getting the good segment. And in the process of removing the segments, we're going to create a lot of juice in the bottom of our bowl here, and then we're going to use that juice as the base for the salad dressing. So, when working with an orange and segmenting an orange, these are navel oranges so that they don't have any seeds in them. We're going to cut the top off and cut the bottom off. So now we have nice flat surfaces to work with. So with your knife, you want to go just underneath the pith to reveal the orange. And you go in little strips all the way around. So now we have a bowl with a fine mesh strainer here. And what we're going to do is take the knife with the orange in the palm of our hand, and we're going to go just inside that epidermis and make like V-type cuts. And the segment will come right out. So now there's some juice in the bottom. We have our segments removed. And then what I'm going to do is just squeeze this part out to get the rest of the juice. So now we're going to make our salad dressing. So to the orange juice, I have just a little bit of rice vinegar, a little bit of Dijon mustard, a couple tablespoons of honey. All right, so we're just going to season this up and whisk it all together. So we have the orange juice, the Dijon mustard and honey, a little bit of salt, some black pepper, and then we're just going to emulsify with a little olive oil. We'll start to whisk it first, and then slowly drizzle in some olive oil. All right, that should be good. give that a quick taste. Awesome. Perfect. All right, so this is fennel. I think most people have worked with fennel, but just in case you haven't, fennel is a root vegetable, very similar to celery, and has a licorice anise-type flavor, but it's very subtle. And so there's a part that you eat. This part right here is the part that you eat, and then this part right here is not really edible, although some people use the prawns here as a garnish or like a salad topper. But for today, we're just going to get rid of those. So when you go to slice fennel, you're going to take the bottom off, just a little bit. Give yourself a nice surface to work with. And then you're going to go across the top and remove those. So you just have the bulb. Then you're going to cut it in half. And if there's any like discolored or really rigid outside edges, you're just going to want to remove those. Now down inside the fennel, right here, there's a little core. So we're going to cut that out. Then we're just going to lay this on its flat side and cut thin slices. Once we have our slices cut, we're going to move them right into the dressing and let this fennel get nice and happy down inside of our dressing. So we have all of the fennel down inside of our dressing. We're just going to toss this around to make sure that it's coated. And we're just going to cover this and move this into the refrigerator. In about 15 minutes, this will be ready to plate up over our salad. All right, so our salad ingredients are ready to go, and our Caldo Verde is just about ready. We've let this simmer for about 15 minutes. It's fully cooked. All the flavors have come together, but now we're going to finish the texture. So what we do is we take our spoon, the potatoes are nice and soft, and we get in here and we just kind of mash up some of those potatoes a little bit because we want to let them get their starch out. And that little bit of mash on the potatoes is going to help to add to our texture. So you don't have to really do much here. You don't have to take a masher. You don't have to use a whisk. You don't have to go crazy. You just kind of want to break some of these potatoes up. All right, so that's just about there. So now what we do is we take our kale here and we add it right into our simmering pot. We want to make sure all this kale gets all the way in and submerged, and then we're going to cover this and let it simmer for about 5 minutes more. And when it's done, the kale will be like a beautiful jade green color and still be nice and tender. We don't want to just cook this down to mush. We only want to let it go for about 5 minutes, and it'll be just the way that we want it. We're going to put our lid back on, let that go for 5 minutes, and we'll be ready to plate it up. It should be ready to go. So we'll just take a look. Oh yeah, look at that. Simmering. It's beautiful. The texture has changed a little bit from the potatoes, and then adding the kale, it's almost like a thick and luscious stew. So that's it. Soup's ready. All right, so we have everything together. This is how I like to plate it up. Take some of our baby arugula. We just put a nice bed of baby arugula down. We take some of our orange segments. Just put a few orange segments like that. And then we have our fennel here that we slice down that's in this beautiful dressing here. So we're going to take that and let some of the dressing, as we drop the fennel on the salad, spoon out over the greens. We take just a little bit of olive oil, crack a black pepper, and a couple of toasted walnuts. Lovely. And we get our ladle, our Caldo Verde. Oh man, cannot wait to eat this. Excellent. Set that down here. We take a little crusty bread, and there's the dish. Caldo Verde with arugula salad, fennel, oranges, and walnuts. I'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsor for today, Samuel Stenton Senior Charitable Trust. I'd also like to give a special thank to another sponsor for today, Bev and Joe Gerber. Thank you so much, Bev and Joe, for sponsoring today's episode, and can't wait to have you back in the kitchen with us again. See you next week when we're talking about grilling again. We're going to do another grilling episode, but this time with fresh salmon. See you next week.
If you'd like to sponsor an episode or donate to our food services program, please visit www.phillarmh.org/Chef Jared. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. This episode of Serve with Love was sponsored by the Samuel Stenton Senior Charitable Trust. Additional sponsors were Joe and Bev Gerber. We'd also like to thank Dietz & Watson for providing delicious jerk chicken sausages for today's episode. For ingredients, recipes, and information on how you can support our food services program, please visit us on the web at www.phillarmh.org/Chef Jared. You can also contact me with any questions by email at chefjared@phillarmh.org. Thank you.